I'm Adrian Ghobrial. We're walking the hard court here. We're here in the party back in Toronto. We're joined by Sportsnet's Michael Grange. Michael, you followed this team since jump. Putting into words what tonight means, what this journey means, it's obviously a massive moment.
It is, and I think it's, you feel a little bit for a lot of the people who are behind the scenes, and, they work, you talk to Marc Gasol, and he'll tell you the culture of a team, the culture of an organization is, the medical staff. It's the people who take care of the locker room, the people who kind of make sure that the champagne is in the dressing room at the end. And there's a lot of people, that's who I was sort of talking to and felt in some ways the most for, because, they're not, they put their heart and soul in it. They don't necessarily they obviously don't get the recognition, and it just kind of starts from there. And I mean, that kind of feeling reverberates all around the country, because basketball, as much as it's exploding now, it's not a new thing, and there are people who have coached the sport for years and years and years, and it kind of created a culture around this sport. There are people who who have played the game forever and ever, and have shared the love, and there's parents, people maybe my generation, when I was younger playing, there wasn't as much of an infrastructure. There's a lot of people my age who are parents, and they've done everything the way parents do for their kids, to build clubs, to referee, to coach, to convene tournaments, to take teams in vans down all across Canada and the U.S. so they can play and build this generation of players. And I think that's the kind of moment that I feel, in a way, right? Like, I mean, you're happy for Kyle Lowry, you're happy for Masai Ujiri, you're happy for all these people who put so much into it, and this is the biggest moment of their career. But, I mean, for the bigger basketball community, you're happy for them, too.
We've spoken about it in the past, there's the Vince Carter effect, and we're seeing the fruits of that now. Can we even imagine what this will do for basketball in our country, a sport that I know that you've been a part of for your whole life, more or less?
Well, I mean, it's the mainstreaming of it, and I think that's been going on for a while. But now I think the one thing you're going to see is a recognition, I think, maybe for Canada, that this is a real groundswell. Like, this is a thing that you need to get behind, and so that could translate into the national team. That could translate into more opportunities, and I think it could also, maybe just help the infrastructure that I was referring to get even more robust. And there are going to be a lot of kids, and that's going to be the next challenge, is there's going to be a lot of kids who, 10, 11, 12 years old, who this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened. They'll never forget it. We all remember where we were when something great happened when we were kids, and it creates a little vision and a dream, and it never quite goes away. And the challenge is going to be, how do you kind of accept all those kids into the system? We got to, you got to get gyms available to them. You got to get community centers open to them. You got to get rims up at the schools, that kind of stuff, because this is the kind of thing that you're going to capitalize on, and the demand, I think, is probably right now going to outstrip the supply, and it's a good problem to have. But 10 years from now, you're going to see, I guarantee it, you're going to see more players in the NBA. You're going to see them talk about where they were when this game was, and why they, man, these Canadian kids, they're all so chill, they're all so focused. Well, because they grew up, their favorite player is Kawhi Leonard. That's going to be the legacy of all of this.
I'm hearing in my ear the celebrations taking place across the country. It's almost become a cliche when we call the Raptors Canada's team, though. Tonight there was more than 50 Jurassic Parks from coast to coast. I've spoken with fans tonight who flew here from Halifax, from Edmonton, from Vancouver, really putting, it's not just a cliche, I guess. This really is Canada's team. And, when you look at that support and you see how it's gone from coast to coast, what does that say to you?
I just think it means that basketball is another kind of conversation Canadians can have. And for a long time, and for good reason, right? It was around hockey, because that was sort of the one lingua franca. Some people were more into it, some people or others. But it was, I think, even for new Canadians coming over in the decades past, you wanted to get into hockey because that was the way you could connect with your peers and your schoolmates and your families on your street. And that's still true. But I mean, now there's a whole other level of conversation you can have. It doesn't have to be one thing. I think and it's a sport that appeals to different people for different reasons. And and I think the beauty of it is it's not a Toronto story. It means you can have that conversation with someone in Victoria. You can have that conversation with someone in St. John's. You can have it with someone, all across the prairies, because they all, people love winning. People in basketball, there's communities of basketball all across this country, and now there's a voice for them. And I think for the people who've been in it forever, it's maybe a little bit of a justification finally.
Yeah.
And the people who are coming into it lately, it's wow, okay, this is a new vocabulary for us, and we're happy to participate in that conversation too.
When it comes to this franchise, at the beginning of the season, we heard it from Masai, we heard it from promotional videos, enough with the insecurities, Toronto. Believe in yourself. Though there's still, a lot of media, a lot of basketball insiders south of the border that haven't really given the Raptors credit. What does this win do you believe, to solidify their place in the league as a serious basketball franchise?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think the serious basketball franchise, that's been in place for a long time. People understand in this league how good an organization it is, right down from Larry Tannenbaum through Bellin Rogers down to Masai. I mean, it is rock solid, and that is why you win. You don't win without it. I think around the league, you've proven it, you can win. So that's a huge step, right? Like, you're no longer, but what if this? What if you can't do that? What if you can't get these players? Doesn't matter. It's done. It's happened. There's one. Now it's up to you to do it again. But I would also say, I think, if Canadians think this is going to be this great validation, well, all of a sudden the U.S. are going to look at the Toronto Raptors and go, spend all their time pumping their tires. That's probably not going to happen, because I think the number one story is going to be how Klay Thompson got hurt, Kevin Durant got hurt, and the Golden State Warriors their dynasty wobbled off. And it's probably not fair, but it's kind of the nature of the beast. But I think that, in a way, shouldn't matter. I think Raptors fans and Canadian basketball fans can say they know, you don't win these things by accident. There's no such thing as a fluke at this level. And it starts with a fan base that fuels an organization, and an organization that responds to that fan base, and that's why they are here today. In
closing, coming into this series, the Raptors were the underdogs, and there still weren't a lot of people talking, but obviously we weren't missing a KD. But Lowry had his hand in this compression bag. We don't know how Kawhi Leonard's leg was, and then the script kind of flipped after a couple games, and all of a sudden the Raptors were the favorites. Where did you see that turn, that narrative change?
Well, I think when they won the first game here in Oracle, and you're up 2-1, and all of a sudden you're recognizing that the Raptors are a team that this version of the Warriors can't quite solve offensively. Like the different varieties of defense the Raptors can bring to kind of contain what the Warriors have always brought to the table, which is unstoppable offense. All of a sudden you're like, okay, this is a real thing. This isn't a couple guys having a good game or something like that. Obviously, and then game 4, with Klay Thompson out, and you blow him out, and all of a sudden the 3-1 lead's kind of almost insurmountable. But I would say when you came to Oracle and won, to go up 2-1, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is going to happen.
And it did.
It absolutely did, and like I said, it was, and I think it's really fitting that in the end, Kawhi Leonard is the deserved Finals MVP. There's no question about that. But I thought it was really telling that in this game, the Warriors put all their eggs in trying to contain Kawhi Leonard, and he was willing to allow that to happen a little bit. And so you got Fred VanVleet, undrafted free agent, hitting huge shots after huge shot after huge shot. Pascal Siakam, taking 27 2 years ago, was benched in Game 5 in the fourth quarter, comes in and he's scoring, essential baskets, down the stretch of a finals game, a championship game, and
Kyle Lowry's start,
and Kyle Lowry too. Very fitting too. The guy who's been here the longest, has paid the biggest dues, has had the biggest personal journey. So in a way, you step away from this and go, it was a real team effort.
Sportsnet's Michael Grange, we always appreciate your time. Thank you very much, sir. We'll see you at the parade, perhaps.
Okay. By my house one day.
Thank you. As you heard from Michael Grange, what a moment for this franchise, what a moment for this country. We touched on it a little bit earlier, how the Raptors dared us to dream, and then as they went up in the series, they allowed a nation, they allowed a city to dream, and now the dream has come true. Right here in Oracle Arena, it is closing night in Oracle when it comes to NBA basketball. The Raptors will always have won the last game right here on this hard court. That is never going to change.